Hi guys, this is Dr. Abidemi. It's been a while. I hope you are all doing well. And so today we're going to take a look at the concept of supply. We've done demand. Now let's go through supply. So what is supply? Supply can be defined as the quantity of goods and services a producer is willing and able to sell at a particular price and at a particular point in time. And this can be referred to as effective supply. All right. And why is it referred to as why supply, or why is this definition referred to as an effective supply? This definition is referred to as an effective supply because the producer of a particular good is willing, okay, something he wants to do, and is able to sell. Able to sell simply means he has the capacity to sell. All right. So supply, this definition is referred to as an effective supply because that producer of a particular good is willing and able to sell at a particular price and at a particular point in time. Now, let's dive into the law of supply. Let's dive into the law of supply. Of course, you know what the law of demand says. The increase in price, the lower the quantity demanded, and the decrease in price, the higher the quantity demanded. What about supply? For supply, it's the opposite. All things being equal, ceteris paribus, the lower the price, the lower the quantity supplied, and the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied. Let me take that again. All things being equal, the lower the price, the lower the quantity supplied, and the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied. What that means is that any firm or a business will be willing to supply more goods and services to the market if the prices are rising. Why is that? Because an increase in price will translate into greater revenue, which can translate into greater profit for the producers or for the suppliers of that particular good or service. All right. So for law of supply or for supply, there is a positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. Of course, you know for demand, there is an inverse or a negative relationship between price and quantity demanded. All right. So let's take a look at supply schedule, a table that shows the relationship between the price of a good and the quantity supplied. So a supply schedule is a table that shows the relationship between the price of a good and quantity supplied. What about the supply curve? All right, so a supply curve is a graph that shows the relationship. So remember, supply schedule is a table, all right, that just shows you the relationship between price and quantity supplied. Why the supply curve is a graph that shows that relationship between the price of a good and quantity supply. All right, let's go straight ahead. You remember that when we did demand, we also talked about changes in quantity demanded and changes in demand. The same also apply for supply. All right. So for supply, we also have changes in quantity supplied and changes in supply. For changes in quantity supplied, it is only affected by the price of the product, with all other factors remaining constant. Its changes, which is expansion or contraction, occur along the supply curve. We sometimes refer to these changes as the movement along the supply curve. And this can be seen in figure 6.1. Let's see what the figure looks like. Let's see what the figure looks like. Yeah. Okay. So this is what a supply curve looks like. A supply curve is upward sloping. Of course, you know that a demand curve is downward sloping. All right. So for changes in quantity supplied, we say we only take a look at it that it is affected by the price of that particular product. Yes. So uh, take a look at this graph. You could see that there is a positive relationship between both of them. And for changes in quantity supplied, you could see the movement is along the supply curve. Okay, upward movement is expansion, downward movement is contraction. You can see when prices increase from P1 to P2, quantity supplied also increases from Q1 to Q2. That's an expansion. When price falls from P2 to P1, quantity supplied also falls from Q2 to Q1. That's a contraction. So this is the concept of, this explains the concept of, or this graphically explains the concept of changes in quantity supply. Okay, what about changes in supply? Of course, you remember changes in demand when we say a shift in the demand curve to the right or to the left. This also applies to the supply curve. Okay, the changes in supply is a shift to the supply curve, either to the right, which is referred to as an increase, or to the left, which is referred to as a decrease. All right. So changes in supply show a shift in the supply curve, either to the left, decrease, or to the right, increase. These changes are caused by other factors, all right, while the price of the product remains constant. This is further presented in figure 6.2. All right. So for changes in supply, you could see in this graph here in figure 6.2, you could see that, for example, we assume right here that the price of the product is constant. All right. For the price of that particular product, we assume it's constant. While we take a look at other factors that can affect supply aside the price. So if the supply curve shifts to the right, that's an increase. If the supply curve shifts to the left, that is a decrease. And you can see to the right, quantity supplied moves from Q to Q2. To the left, quantity supply moves from Q to Q1. Okay, so let's take a look at market supply. So market supply is the is here I wrote, just as market demand is the sum of all the demand of all buyers, market supply is the sum of all the suppliers of all sellers. All right, you can see that, for example, if a supplier A or supplier one supplies um, um, sells at $50 and supplies quantity of 10, that's supplier one. For supplier two, the product also sells at $50 for supplies. Quantity supplied is 20. What is the market supply? The market supply is the summation of 10 plus 20, which is equal to 30. All right, and this is the price, $50. Now, supply function. So the supply function shows the mathematical or functional relationship between the quantity supplied of a product and the factors affecting it. All right. So if we take a look at the supply function, we are taking a look at all the factors. Okay, all the factors that can affect supply, all, whether the price of the product or a price of all the products. Okay, so you can see here the supply function shows the mathematical or functional relationship between the quantity supplied of a product and the factors affecting it. You can see quantity supplied of good X is affected by price of the product, price of other product, and you also have some initials which we are going to take a look at right here. Okay, so PX, price of the product, right? Changes in the price of a good reflect along the supply curve. That's when we talked about changes in quantity supplied, right? The price of other product, price of other goods can be substitute or complement. If price of X and price of Y are substitutes, when the price of good X falls, the quantity supplied of X will decrease because the producers are less willing to supply at a lower price. Okay? This happens because producing X becomes less profitable. Since price of X and price of Y are substitutes, producers might shift their resources to produce more of Y, the substitute, if its price remains higher. This allows them to maximize profits by focusing on the more profitable product. If price of X and price of Y are complements, when the price of X falls, consumers buy more of X, which often leads to increased demand for its complement. Why? For example, if cars X become cheaper, more people buy cars, increasing demand for fuel. Okay? Prices of inputs. If prices of inputs rise, firms will produce less. Of course, they will produce less. It means their cost of production is going to go higher, all right, which will shift the supply curve to the left. Technology. Advance in technology can Advance in technology can increase the productive capacity of firms, thereby making the supply curve to shift to the right. Expectation of producers. Output levels can vary according to the expectations of producers about the future state of the market. If producers expect higher prices in the future, they might reduce their current supply to hold on to stock and sell it later at a higher price, causing the supply curve to shift left temporarily. Conversely, if producers expect lower prices in the future, they might increase their current supply to sell more before the price drops, causing supply to shift right temporarily. Number of sellers. If there are more sellers in the market, then it makes sense that supply would increase, supply of goods would increase. More sellers mean more competition and more goods or services being offered at every price level. Number seven, taxes and subsidies. Increase in taxes will reduce supply from the sellers, while increase in subsidies will increase supply. So far, we've taken a look at the definition of supply. We've taken a look at the laws of supply. We've taken a look at supply schedule. We've taken a look at the supply curve. We've taken a look at changes in quantity supplied. We've taken a look at changes in supply. All right. What is changes in quantity supplied? Changes in quantity supplied is when we look at how the relationship between the price of a product and the supply. Changes in supply is the price of the product remains constant. We take a look at other factors that can contribute to supply of a product. Now, price elasticity of supply. In terms of its interpretation, just like we did price elasticity of demand, and price elasticity of supply can be elastic, which is greater than 1, inelastic, less than 1, or can be unitary, equals to 1. When a 1% change in price leads to more than 1% in quantity supplied, it is called price elastic supply. For example, in the electronics industry, if the price of smartphones increases, manufacturers can quickly ramp up production because components are readily available, making the supply elastic. So when a 1% change in price leads to less than 1% change in quantity supplied, it is called price inelastic supply. For example, supply for agricultural foods like wheat tends to be inelastic because production depends on seasons, not just quick adjustments to prices. And for units or unitary, when a 1% change in price leads to an equal or proportionate change in quantity supplied, it is called unit or unitary elastic supply. Suppose a company that produces smartphones has extra production capacity. If the price of smartphones increase by 1%, the company can increase its production by 1% without having to invest in new machinery or facilities. In this case, the supply is unitary elastic because the firm can adjust production proportionately to price changes. So interpreting elasticity can be seen in figure 6.4. Let's take a look at it. And you can see for elastic, you can see that there's a lot of sensitivity for elastic supply. All right, look at it. If price changes from P1 to P2, quantity supplied increases more, or quantity of that good supplied increases more than the price change. Okay, so what that tells you also is that suppliers are very sensitive to price right here. See, so the changes in quantity is more than the changes in price. For unit or unitary, you can see that there is a proportional change between from movement from P1 to P2 to Q1 to Q2, right? You could see that. Then for inelastic, you could see that price, a change in price is more than the change in quantity supplied. You could see that. You could see the um, you could see these boxes here. This change is more than this. All right, meaning that if price changes from P1 to P2, the amount of goods that will be supplied, the extra amount of goods that will be supplied will just change a little bit, right? Will change a little bit. While for quantities, for elastic, the amount of goods that will be supplied will change drastically. All right. So let's go on. So in figure 6.4, A and C are relatively elastic and relatively inelastic, respectively. Elasticity can also be perfect, such as perfectly elastic and perfectly inelastic. Perfectly inelastic supply occurs when the quantity supplied of a good does not change, even if the price changes. For example, a rare artifact from ancient times has perfectly inelastic supply because no more can be produced no matter what the price the market is willing to pay. In this case, the seller's price sensitivity is zero and the curve is vertical. And you can see here. So even if price changes, the quantity supplied of that particular good does not change. Okay. Even if price changes, the quantity supplied of that particular good does not change. What about perfectly elastic supply? It means that producers will supply any amount of a good at a specific price. But if the price changes even a little, they will stop supplying the product entirely. In theoretical perfect competition or a perfect competitive market, individual firms are price takers and can supply any quantity at the going market price. If the price decreases even slightly, they would not supply any goods. Thus, suppliers' price sensitivity is extreme and the curve is horizontal. Let's take a look at 6.6. You can see here the price does not change, all right, but the quantity supplied of that good changes, either increases or decreases. Okay. So, what are some review questions? What is supply? What does the law of supply tell you? Differentiate between changes in supply and changes in quantity supplied. Explain with a graph. What are the factors that can lead to a change in supply aside from the price of the product? What is market? Here should be what is market supply? What is market supply? And explain the price elasticity of supply. Okay. All right. So I'll see you in my next class. In the next class or in the next session, we are going to talk about the concept of production, theory of production. So we've gone through the theory of consumption, then we'll go through the theory of production. All right. So I will see you in my next class.